I appreciate being invited by video at least to participate in the conference that you're having this year. This is not ideal, but nevertheless, I hope that I'll be able to share some thoughts with you that can help you in the important work that you are doing for our state. You know, this COVID-19 crisis has had a heck of a impact on society and certainly in Michigan. And no one really had a playbook for, how do you work through something like this from an economic standpoint. And so that's really what I want to talk with you about today, is to share our thoughts as Business Leaders for Michigan about what we see as the way through this pandemic and how do we get our state back on track from an economic growth point of view. And we really see that there are three hurdles that we need to overcome. First of all is we need to thoroughly address the public health crisis that we're facing. Then we need to reopen the economy in a responsible way. And then finally, we need to go about the work of stimulating additional economic growth. And all of these things don't occur sequentially, they can occur on parallel tracks. So let me share some thoughts about how do we restart the economy responsibly and safely. Well, first of all, we need to make sure that we don't take a step backwards. And that means following the guidelines that we have been participating in through a group called the Michigan Economic Recovery Council, which is a group of medical and business professionals that have gotten together using science to help advise the governor as to what regions of the state should open when and how much they should reopen. And we need to continue following that playbook very, very carefully in the months ahead until a vaccine is developed and widely used. And then we also need to make sure, obviously, that we're doing everything we can to support our healthcare system to have the tools and supplies that they need to continue to provide care for those that need it. We also, though, need to continue working on stabilizing the business climate. This is still an unstable time. While things are, as of today, better than they were, say, a few months ago, we don't know what's going to happen in the fall and until a vaccine is developed. And so we need to make sure that we continue the partnerships that are going on right now to help the financial institutions be able to provide the liquidity that many of our small and medium-sized companies need to stay afloat. The work-share program that the state has developed, which is very important, very valuable tool, we need to continue that. And then liability protections we need to pass to protect business from situations that frankly could undermine their ability to survive in a time like this are also very, very important. But then the most, probably the second pillar of work that I mentioned a few minutes ago is how do we adapt to these new conditions? How do we restructure the economy in a way that reflects the fact that the world we're in today is not the world we were in a few months ago? And one part of that is let's use the resources that we have really super wisely right now. So that would mean, for example, while infrastructure has been at the top of our list to try to move forward for Michigan, we need to make sure we're prioritizing those projects that really do have the greatest economic impact and that are shovel ready so that we can put people to work on things that matter most. Second is looking at the fact that we're working and living differently than we were before. And does that have implications on the tax system in Michigan? We're not advocating for a tax increase, but we may be somehow adversely affecting the revenues that the state needs to collect right now by working at home, getting our deliveries at home, which may not be captured by the tax system the way it was intended to work. So that would be something to work on. And then facilitating the fact that we are working differently and living differently than we were before. So broadband investments become critically important and maybe come up higher on the list even compared to some road projects that we thought before the pandemic may have been more important to invest in. So what kind of broadband infrastructure do we need, and also then how do we encourage people to take advantage of the broadband access where it's available in their communities? Education funding, prioritizing money is going directly to the classroom as opposed to unnecessary administrative expenses. Right now in Michigan, we still have many more school districts than most states do. Those cost money. And so rather than spend it there, would it be better in the classroom? And can we roll up the back office operations of a lot of those districts to the intermediate school district level to be able to save costs? And then also with education, encouraging multi-layered education. We're going to be probably having some level of online learning for some time, and let's make sure that we're providing the local districts in this state a lot more guidance than they probably have been getting in terms of what is best practice in terms of online learning. What should the curriculum look like? What's the best way to deliver it? What support do the teachers need to make sure that the kids are getting the kind of instruction that is really important? And then also, what do we need to do to really make sure that we are using our resources effectively in terms of making sure that the talent that we have is getting an opportunity to really to work. So for example, we have a lot of displaced workers right now, people that were working in the food services industry or in places that in the entertainment industry, the tourism industry, that don't have opportunities to work. What can we do to rapidly redeploy those folks into other sectors of the economy that may be able to utilize their skills and their energy, whether it be in logistics, in, let's say, grocery stores or retail, rather than having to have folks go through a lengthy job training, retraining program. There are opportunities to redeploy folks, and with rapid on-the-job training to be able to enable them to continue to earn income during this critical time. For those folks that need it, let's accelerate the pace of getting folks certificate programs and certificates that they need to be able to work and not go through the same regular timelines that we usually do. And also then when things are stabilized, really reinvesting in programs like the governor's proposal for Going Pro and the Michigan Reconnect programs to help people get some of the longer term higher level skills that are needed to sustain their families. And then, you know, the third leg of the stool is what do we need to do to really facilitate economic growth over the long term given this new set of circumstances that we have? How do we reignite, if you will, the economy? And we'd suggest several ideas. One is to shift our resources more into supporting the growth of small and medium-sized companies, in that there probably won't be a lot of major corporate relocations happening for some time. So let's take advantage of that by redirecting existing programs that are normally used to support those kinds of business attraction efforts into business retention and expansion. Another opportunity are getting our supply chains consolidated into Michigan. A lot of supply chains went overseas over the last decade or two. A lot of our Michigan-based companies, also have their supply chains overseas. What could we do to try to attract them back onshore into Michigan? And what do we need to do to try to help work with our existing Michigan companies to identify and incentivize those opportunities? And another example of, again, how we could reignite our economy is to recognize that more and more jobs are going to require more and more talent. That means those jobs are going to be attracted to be in communities that have institutions of higher education. And let's make sure that we have very clear strategies of how we can work with our universities to jumpstart growth based on the kind of innovation that comes out of higher education. So this is a quick overview. There's a lot of content there that we could talk about more, but I wanted to give you a sense of just to stimulate your own thinking about how it is that folks in your position can be able to be in critical positions to help the state move forward. Again, these ideas of redeploying existing workers in the jobs that need the talent right now without a lot of reskilling, the ability to really focus your energies on types of jobs that are going to need more talent in the future, jobs that require technology, or jobs that require the knowledge in specific skill areas, and then this whole area of thinking about delivering training in ways that rely on broadband and online learning. These are all areas that are things that you can all make a huge contribution on. So again, I appreciate the opportunity to be here. Wish I could be there in person with you, but really thank Luana and your whole group for giving me a chance to say a few words. Thanks so much, and appreciate all you're doing for the state of Michigan.